Ready to take your favorite Wager Talk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The Wager Talk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like Wager Talk Today, Bet on It, and the Opening Line Report, plus browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for Wager Talk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.
Welcome into the best damn college football show out there. I am Drew Martin, joined by two of my friends, Ralph Michaels and Robbie Veno of WagerTalk.com. We are breaking down three games on the slate, college football-wise. Florida State, Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame, and Maryland, Wisconsin to end it. We'll have best bets at the end. Going around the horn here, Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. $2 Tuesday winner. Hats off to him. Ralph, welcome in. Happy Wednesday to you.
Thanks. NBA season, incredible the last 2 years. I am going to be loading a 5% play in college football, only my third in 7 weeks, won the last two. And just a reminder, 126 games in college basketball next Monday. The free Wager Talk College Basketball Guide available on my homepage, the shortcut wt.buzz/RM.
We got Robbie Veno at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. Robbie, happy hump day. Happy Wednesday to you, man.
Yeah, this is a good show for hump day, Drew. Get you over into the end of the week because I have fun on this show all the time. A big college football weekend. Obviously, we saw those CFP rankings come out for the first time. They'll certainly be shuffled up a little bit before the end of the season, but we're getting into crunch time in college football now, so nice to have this card in front of us, and nice to have MAC football, Drew, every single day of the week, leading into the Friday night and Saturday afternoon stuff.
Yeah, weeknight action. Absolutely. Always fun to watch as it got going last night. But guys, let's get into it here. Heading to South Florida for Florida State and Miami. Top rivalry here in the Sunshine State. We are seeing Florida State -7.5. 53 being the total. Speaking of good times, Rob, these two teams, when they get together, particularly in Miami, there's a lot of fans out there that are having a good time. I can tell you that from experience. One of the better tailgate atmospheres there will be. A lot of Florida State fans is what I'm getting at in South Florida. Miami fans as well with the night game. This one will be sold out, good atmosphere. However, the teams on the field, that leaves something else to be desired in some respects here. Although Florida State -7.5 point road favorites, 53 being the total. What are you liking in Miami Gardens?
Yeah, that's the interesting part, right, Drew? I think I could make a case situationally for Miami as the home dog, but I think the only case I can make fundamentally is for the Florida State side in this game. It looks like, well, let's just start with this. Miami's on 7 consecutive point spread losses heading into this game. It's hard to back a team that can't cover a spread 7 straight weeks. But only one of those games was as an underdog. So I think that's important to point out because they're in that situation again here. They were getting 6.5 at College Station. They did not cover, only lost by 8, so didn't miss the closing line by much in that 17-9 contest. So we'll see if as an underdog they can play up to capabilities here. I think that there's 2 key returnees in this game that can make a difference. For Florida State, their leading rusher, Treshaun Ward, comes back for this game, which gives Florida State kind of a 3-headed monster in the backfield. They've been the number 1 rushing team in the ACC this season. And on the other side, looks like Tyler Van Dyke returns at quarterback for Miami. I guess, cynical people would say he hasn't done much or lived up to expectations so far this year. Remember, this is a kid that they were projecting as a first-round NFL draft pick. Hasn't turned out that way so far this season, but he did sit out the last 1.5 games due to injury. And since he went down, guys, Miami has had 19 offensive possessions And in those 19 possessions, 15 of them ended up as 6 turnovers and 9 punts. If you count turnover on downs, it's 6 turnovers and 9 punts. Only 20 points scored. These are regulation drives. I didn't count the overtime drives, which started at the 25-yard line. So that's a bad number. 15 of 19 with a backup quarterback, no good. So the return of Van Dyke, probably important for Miami here. Key matchup, probably, as I mentioned, Florida State's rush offense, number 1 in the ACC, against Miami's rush defense, number 2 in the ACC. However, in college football, we know that sack yardage is lumped into rushing attempts and rushing yards. So if you take the sack yardage out of this deal, Miami's defense suddenly doesn't look as impressive against the run. It would be 4.2 yards per carry rather than 3.4. And Florida State's run offense looks a lot better. 5.6 looks real good, but 6.6 with sack yardage taken out looks even better. So there's an idea in my head that Florida State should be able to run the football here with their lead back in the backfield. The Miami Hurricanes have only played 2 really good rush offenses. And I won't even say really good. They played 1 really good rush offense, which was Duke. Duke ranks 22nd in rush offense in the NCAA, and they got 200 yards against Miami on the ground. The next best team they played was North Carolina, who boasts the number 63 rushing attack in the country. They got 161. Other than that, their other 5 opponents, FBS-wise, they rank between 87th and 119th running the football. So I tend to take Miami's overall rush defense statistics right now with a grain of salt. I think FSU might be able to make their way on the ground here. I think they're the better balanced team offensively and defensively. Last 3 games for Florida State, 2 of those against Clemson and NC State. No argument, those are the 2 best defenses in the ACC, Clemson and NC State. And Florida State outgained both of those by margin. They outgained NC State by 80 total yards. They outgained Clemson by 90 total yards. They gained 460 yards against Clemson. Again, I can make a strong fundamental case for Florida State here, but the situation bothers me. The amount of points here, 7 in the hook, bothers me. It came down from 8, I think, because of the Tyler Van Dyke news. But if I had to, Florida State got off the schneid last year. They had lost 4 straight, and they finally won 1 last year. And I think it's a little bit more important for Mike Norvell as head coach of Florida State to win this rivalry game than it is for Mario Cristobal. I think he's got some time there to turn Miami around. Norvell's been on the hot seat seemingly every week of the year since last season. I'll try Florida State minus 7.5.
Ralph, coming to you next, man. Miami, of course, offensively, what they went to 4 overtimes. I don't think either team actually scored a touchdown last week in their close win. I'll say this, though, Ralph. Jake Garcia, I believe he's their highest touted quarterback recruit in like 2 decades. He got the first start in his career since the Georgia State championship game. And he runs around a little bit. I don't know, with a week of practice here, it might not be that bad if he starts. I mean, it's not like Tyler Van Dyke, like Robbie talked about. Naysayers might say he didn't do much anyway. Interested in your opinion on the quarterback situation for Miami, and what are you thinking here? I mean, Miami, according to our friend Mark Lawrence's playbook, 16-5 the last 21 against the spread as a home dog. It's going to be a wild atmosphere, man. Would you look towards the Canes?
I would not. Going to the Miami paper this morning, Cristobal said he's optimistic he'll be able to play. He's practiced all week. We'll make an official decision and announce it later, but we're certainly optimistic. So he's practiced, and he didn't make the trip to Virginia. So, you look at Miami's offense, and you could write off a redshirt freshman making that road start, in Virginia as the reason the offense faltered. I love Rob's pulling out the stats as far as the rush numbers go. But I don't think people realize how statistically dominant Florida State has been. I'm looking at the Wager Talk college basketball stat compare. College football stat compare. Florida State's played the number 39th schedule. Miami's only played 73. So there's a huge discrepancy in strength of schedule. Florida State is plus 163 yards per game. That is number 7 in the country. Florida State is plus 2.2 yards per play. That is number 6 in the country. So what led to the losses at NC State and Clemson and Wake Forest? Well, those are 3 quality teams, one of them on the road, and they were -1 turnover, -1 turnover, -1 turnover in all 3 of those games. So you look at the matchups and you think, well, Florida State is a clean play, but I still, because they are turnover prone, because Jordan Travis has a 14-3 ratio, Rodemaker has a 2-2 ratio, so that the stats look worse for the team than actually will be playing. But again, the rivalry game, you have to give Miami some benefit of the doubt. Now, this is an off-the-kilt stat, but when Rob was mentioning 7 straight losses, I actually went to the database. And teams that have lost 7 straight against the spread or more since 2012 have gone 22-7, 76% against the spread. That applies to Miami of Florida and also BYU this week. Now, I'm not going to bet a situation that says just because you lost 7 in a row, you've covered it. That's more the line being adjusted because no one's going to bet the Miami side and Vegas making a bit of adjustment, but you see exactly what those adjustments have done. The average line in those games were actually plus 12, and they've actually gone 13 and 17 straight up. So if you have 12-point dogs and they've won 43.3% straight up, that means if you like Miami here, I would actually look to play some on the money line. Again, I'm not saying that's what I would do. I'm just saying if you are a fan of the situation. I am not going to play against Florida State because of their statistical profile, but on this road game, this is only their 2nd road game since Louisville, which was their 3rd game of the year. The other one was NC State. Stats, power ratings say Florida State, in-state rival, on the road against the Miami team, which is desperate, will have their starter back, has lost 4 of their last 6 games straight up. If they're going to have a game, it's going to be this week. That keeps me enough off the game.
And are you sure Van Dyke is going to play, Ralph?
Well, like I said, Cristobal said he's practiced, and he says don't worry about the sling he was wearing because when he's practicing, it's fine. That's just stuff he's doing off. So it's rare for a coach to say we're fairly optimistic, and yes, he's practiced, and he doesn't have restrictions in practice. I can't imagine him not playing.
Okay.
I would say this. If you like the Miami side, I don't know if Van Dyke moves the lever. Some quarterbacks, if they say they're going to play, you might lose a point and a half in the value. If you like Miami and you want the 7.5, I feel Cristobal's a coach that you could believe. And, we all do a lot of reading and there's coaches that when they say something, you tend to believe them. When they say something like some people like Andy Reid, it's like, oh, forget it. It's probably a lie. But he is a coach that I've never found something that I remember that you can't be fairly sure when he says something that it does work out that way.
So when he visited Miami, he was visiting his sick grandma, right? And then he took the job a month later. I guess that might. You're talking in particular to players' injuries, I know. But,
I'm talking coaches' quotes about a team, not pulling the wool over your cover because you went for a job interview. So,
yeah, I remember that. I'm sure Oregon fans out there remember that as well. But guys, we'll move down. Great breakdown here, and yeah. I mean, to both Ralph and Robbie's point, I mean, Miami has not won a bet this year. If you've been betting Miami Hurricanes, you're probably out of cash, 0-7 against FBS opponents, against the spread, that is. They have not covered a spread yet this season. Clemson, Notre Dame staying, I guess, halfway in the ACC here. Ralph, coming to you first, man. Clemson, -3 in the hook, on the road in South Bend, 44 being the total, low total, Ralph. Notre Dame is 4-1 against the spread, last 5 as a home underdog. They kind of turned it around here since that rough spot. I don't know. Is this enough for you, though, to get on the Irish? What are you thinking, Clemson and Notre Dame?
Oh, yeah. As I did my work for this show, I liked Clemson more and more, and I think it's a great possibility they'll be on my card. First, let's get the quarterback situation out of the way. DJ was benched. Klubenik is a 5-star recruit, came in. They won the game, but only 9 of 19. DJ is going to start. That's the word I have from the Clemson reporters. But there is a concern. You always want to, even if you like a side, you always want to go through the concerns. He now has pressure about looking over his shoulder and perhaps getting pulled. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 interceptions, but a couple wrong decisions and a couple missed throws. And all of a sudden in your head, you got to be thinking, oh my God, am I going to get pulled again in this situation? So, that bringing up the Clemson side is the negative of going out. 2 years ago, remember, Clemson was number 1. They came here to Notre Dame as a number 4 team, and they got upset. So I'm sure they remember that trip for those people that are on the team. But this, to me, is a clear matchup game. Notre Dame wants to run the ball. You look, 51 carries against North Carolina, 45 against BYU, 47 against UNV, 56 against Syracuse. When they're good, they have a lead and they run the ball. They only threw the ball 5 times in the second half against Syracuse last week because that's all they needed to do. You have a defense that has held 3 of the last 6 opponents to a season low. And then the other guys, BYU only 276 yards. 385 was their worst against Stanford when they let up 288 yards through the air with a couple big plays. But I have a negative with Pine. Pine started off great, throwing 74% the first part of the season with an 8-1 ratio. Since that time, his last 3 games, he's only completed 49%. Clemson, with that awesome D-line, will absolutely stack the line and make Pine beat him, and I don't think he can. So I look at the situation, and what I think, or what I believe Clemson can do with that excellent D-line is stop Notre Dame. I don't think Pine's good enough to throw the ball. And whoever it is, a quarterback at Clemson, I think they can easily get the job done. One amazing stat. I mentioned Notre Dame's defense, and I gave them some credit with holding people to lows and in the last 4 weeks, only allowing 312 yards per game and 15 first downs. There are 131 teams in the FBS. When teams enter the red zone, Notre Dame's defense is dead last. When people reach the red zone, they've allowed 85% of those teams to score a touchdown. To give you the perspective, the number 1 team in the country is Illinois, allowing 25%. So Notre Dame's red zone defense has been horrendous. Clemson gets there, takes advantage. I do like Clemson. And as I said, I am almost positive this game does make my card for Saturday.
All right, Robbie, what are you thinking here? Clemson, Notre Dame, man.
Yeah, well, the original thought, Drew, when the lines opened was to play this game under the number. A lot of what Ralph said, I think I can apply to the Notre Dame side as well. Clemson really wants to run the ball with Will Shipley first. Notre Dame's run defense has been pretty good. We have to remember that Notre Dame went to Columbus, Ohio, played very good defense there for about 3 full quarters. They played a North Carolina offense, held them to only 367 total yards. We see what North Carolina does on a weekly basis. He talked about BYU, 276, so on and so forth. They both played Syracuse within the last 2 weeks. They both beat Syracuse. I think the Clemson score is a little misleading because they lost turnover margin 4-0 in that game. And to Clemson's credit, they've only committed 9 turnovers all season long. So 4 of them came in that Syracuse game. They'll have to tighten up with ball security here. I would have liked to still see that total at 48.5 where it opened, but money was smart and money came piling in on this under in what looks to be a defensive game. Marcus Freeman, a couple of quotes I saw this week where he talked about how he's learned on the fly as far as adjustments go in game, and how things don't necessarily always work out the way you game plan for them. But I think he's brought this defense along really well. I think he's brought this offense, especially the rushing offense, along really well. Audric Estime has been very good for Notre Dame to counter Will Shipley. The thought that I have that sticks in my head here, Drew, is that neither one of these head coaches honestly believes that they're going to take the opening kickoff, and from there we're going to hand off, and see if we can move the football. Dabo Swinney's known for a lot of trick plays, maybe loosening up defenses early. And I kind of feel like Notre Dame might be in that same mode with the early script here. I talked about playing under full game. The first half under is now all the way down to 22. And I feel like we might see a couple of quick strikes here because neither one, I don't think in their heart of hearts, neither one of these teams thinks they can move the football consistently on the opposing defense. Clemson may be arrogant enough to think so, but they haven't shown it all season long. I don't know who they moved the ball against. Remember that game Ralph referenced where Clemson came in ranked and lost to Notre Dame? I think that was DJ Uiagalele's very first game. He was in replacement of Trevor Lawrence in that one and threw for over like 400 yards. That's the best game he's played in his career. He hasn't played that good since. I just, you know what? I find it hard to find a spot here. There's part of me that thinks Notre Dame can cover. There's part of me that thinks Clemson, sitting at number 4 after the college football playoff rankings just came out, knows that Michigan is right on their tail and they have to be impressive. If they're not impressive here, guys, and Michigan is, I wouldn't be surprised to see Michigan go ahead of Clemson. So Clemson's got to play good ball the rest of the way. I just don't know how good they are offensively. I really don't. I don't think they're very good. I'm going to try, for sake of this show, first half over 22, because I do think that early scripts might have us see some types of plays that loosen up a defense and maybe are designed to get home runs to get the team in front. Because I think whichever team gets the lead here can kind of lean on their defense. And I'm not talking about just a 7-0 lead, maybe a 2-score lead. You could lean on your defense and maybe coast from there on out. So I'll try that, Drew. First half, it's a little creative, but I'll try first half over 22 points.
Okay.
Hey,
Good
Drew.
stuff, Robbie. Yeah.
I rarely counter Rob, but I want to bring up a point. I don't think Clemson has to worry. You go to Notre Dame and you win, you're set. Plus, Tennessee, Georgia play each other. Someone knocks. Ohio State, Michigan play each other. Someone knocks. So their first 6 is really only 4, and 2 guys are out depending on it. So Clemson's sitting in a situation to win out where they're just going to go right up the slot as long as they don't do anything disastrous.
Well, I like that you went there, Ralph, because actually I was going to segue to that. I know it's a little bit off script. We didn't prepare for it, but the rankings did just come out last night. And for college football futures bettors, I guess it could matter in terms of making the playoffs, winning the national championship. Robbie, what were your thoughts? Tennessee won. Of course, what we're talking about, guys, is the college football playoff committee coming out with their rankings. Tennessee 1, Ohio State 2, Georgia 3, Clemson here, the team we're just talking about, at 4. Michigan 5, Alabama 6, TCU 7, Oregon 8, Southern Cal 9, LSU rounding out the top 10. Robbie, did you have a chance to look at them, and what were your thoughts, man?
Well, I looked at them briefly, Drew, but I do think that, and again, it's all guesswork, right? I don't know what the amount of separation between Tennessee, Ohio State, especially the amount of separation between Georgia at 3 and Clemson at 4 is in the pollsters' minds. But in my mind, if I were to guess what they're thinking, it's pretty significant. Clemson really isn't close to Georgia at this point. The only thing that looks good is the 8-0 record. The way they're winning games doesn't look good. If Tennessee were to lose to Georgia, I'm not so sure Clemson moves up anywhere. Tennessee might fall to 3. Georgia might move up. Ohio State might get bumped or sit still. But I don't know, unless Clemson's really, really that impressive, I don't know that a victory over Notre Dame is going to get them anywhere. They're on the shakiest ground in my mind because I think Michigan has a real argument to be ranked ahead of Clemson. And Michigan's got the chances to prove it down the road. Like Ralph was saying, Clemson is set up to win out, where none of their victories upcoming this last third of the season, other than this Notre Dame game, really moved the needle. Where Michigan still has a game against Ohio State, and they won that game last year, they could move the needle with a game. So I do think Clemson's on shaky ground, and they have to be a little better than a 3-point victor in this game to keep their spot throughout the rest of the season. Maybe one week they could, but I just think they're on shaky ground right now and need to be a little more impressive.
Yeah, rough. I agree with what you were saying, before I asked Robbie that in terms of a lot of these teams will play each other, so most of it will work out.
Hmm.
And to Robbie's point, I mean, Georgia's plus 210 to win the national championship, whereas Clemson's plus 1800. So a lot of odds makers have a large gap, but the playoff committee only has two slots or even one slot in between them, the number 3 and the number 4. I didn't realize that Georgia at 3. Ralph, one thing I took away from it is TCU at 7, sitting at 8-0. I don't know. I mean, I feel like TCU's been more impressive than Clemson. Why isn't TCU the number 4? I almost worry that this college football playoff committee is just giving too much credit to like past years because, Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama and Michigan have been in the playoff before. And Clemson, it's like, oh, let's just put them at the top again. I wish they would just kind of rate them like what they really think right off the top. TCU, the road that they just had the last 4 weeks, to put them at 7, I didn't think was right. But hey, it is what it is, man. Did you have any quick thoughts on it, Ralph?
Yeah, I just sorted out my power ratings while Rob was talking. Clearly, I mean, it is. I have Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama all within 2 points. Those guys are far above. Then I have Michigan and Tennessee next. And then Clemson and Oregon in the next group. But you said Georgia and Clemson. Right now on a neutral field, I make Georgia a 10-point favorite against Clemson. So
Yeah.
I don't, again, that's coach speak, and it really doesn't mean anything because those guys are going to play each other out. But,
Right.
Clemson is the team. Because they were ranked up here, there's obviously some people in the committee that like Clemson. I totally agree with you that I actually have TCU a 3-point dog against Clemson. So my power rating still have Clemson fairly high. But as I said, it's the top 3, and then I have a 6-point difference between Michigan and Tennessee. Even though Alabama beat Tennessee, I still have Alabama 6 points better. Now, can they make up for that loss? Maybe. You lost to a team that's the number 1 team on the road. So if anyone's going to be in the committee with a 1 loss, but they're going to need Tennessee to lose 2. So they might not even make the championship. So then you have that, well, should only conference champions? I think that'll be the biggest question. Alabama run the table. If Tennessee gets into the SEC championship, would you allow an Alabama team with 1 loss that lost to the number 1 team in the country on the road get in there over a division champ like TCU?
Oh, God. Let us know what you guys
Alabama,
think about
Georgia, and Tennessee all in the Final Four. It's possible.
Oh, gosh. I'm an SEC guy, and I don't want to see that, guys. I mean, do you guys, as fans of the sport, want to see that or no?
Well, I think Ohio State or Michigan get in, so there's 1.
Right.
But I would never want 3. And I would say if you're going to take both SEC guys, then Alabama gets knocked out, or whoever doesn't make it to the SEC championship.
All right, guys. Well, let us know what you think in the reply section about the college football playoff rankings, our thoughts, and what you're looking to bet this weekend. All is welcome. Smash that like button if you're liking the content. Best damn college football show out there. Ralph Michaels, Rob Veno, I am Drew Martin. Last game here. We'll hit it quick. Ralph, Maryland and Wisconsin. We're seeing Whiskey -5 at home, 50.5 being the total. Camp Randall, they're going to be jumping around 12 noon Eastern kick here, Ralph.
Well, schedules are pretty even. Maryland plus 74 yards per game. Wisconsin plus 47. Edge to Maryland. Playing better lately? Maryland. The bye week, who does it help? Well, Maryland, because Tagovailoa, you know who I mean.
To his little brother.
Let Rob finish. I'll let Rob finish that. To his little brother, yeah. Missed last game with a knee injury. He's missed the last six quarters. He is expected to back, and he has practiced. But I look at the Wisconsin team, and I am still not enamored. I read some article prepping for this. Oh, Wisconsin's offense is back after 42 points against Northwestern and 35 against Purdue. Well, hell, that Purdue game, they got outgained by 50 yards, and they were plus 2 turnovers. That's the only reason they got to 35. I think the wrong team is favored. I would absolutely have Maryland on my card. The reason I don't, winds over 24 miles an hour. Maryland wants to throw the ball. Wisconsin wants to run the ball. This is a game where the weather is keeping me off the team I want to bet because of the style they play. That simple.
Like it, Ralph. Good stuff. Robbie, coming to you. Last game on the board we're breaking down. What are you liking in Camp Randall?
Yeah, Ralph ended with it, but I was going to begin with it if he didn't finish with it. That's the key to this whole game. It's an 11 a.m. start. The winds are going to be anywhere from 21 to 24 miles per hour. And when I'm handicapping college football, 20 becomes like that line in the sand for me. Does the college quarterback have the arm strength to cut through 20-mile-an-hour winds? In the NFL, I use 25 as a guideline. The power arms can. Arms like Talia Tagovailoa, they can't. They do want to throw the football. And it's a shame that Maryland is going to play Wisconsin in these conditions because the matchup edge here is that Maryland wide receiving crew, they go 4 deep against that Wisconsin secondary, which has not been typical of Wisconsin all season long. Got some numbers to back that up. But real quick, with that advantage gone, I almost feel like this game plays into Wisconsin's favor because, in essence, it becomes half the game into the wind, half the game with the wind. You line these guys up as far as rushing matchup goes. Maryland's been pretty good running the football, but I think in a ground attack oriented affair, I would probably favor the Wisconsin side. If I look at the run offenses versus the run defenses of each, Maryland's offense, 72 rushing yards, 2.9 yards per carry versus Purdue, the best rush defense they played, or maybe it was Michigan, but I'm using Purdue as a comparison because both sides have played Purdue, and Purdue does rank 27th in the nation. Very good run defense. So Maryland gets 72 rushing yards, only 2.9 a carry. Wisconsin gets 178 against that team, 6.1 a carry. Big difference there against a good defense. Wisconsin was way better. They both played Michigan State. They basically did the same thing, 5.0 a pop, 4.8 a pop, with sack yardage taken out. Again, Maryland can't expose this Wisconsin pass defense, which in Big Ten play is allowing 264 passing yards per game. You wonder how much time new interim head coach Jim Leonard, a secondary guy himself, can devote to the defense now. Of course, great defensive coordinator, but now as a head coach, your assignments are a little bit different. Wisconsin giving up 65% completions in league play. It would really be nice if Maryland had a dry track here because Tagovailoa is completing 71% of his passes this year. Since Jim Leonard took over, Wisconsin's 3-0 over the total. They're 6-0 over the total their last 6 games. Not something we would think of with a Wisconsin team. The games are averaging 60 points a game over the last 6 for Wisconsin. Maryland's 3-0 over the number on the road. Played Charlotte, 77 points. Played Michigan, 61 points. Played Indiana, 71 points. Last 3 weeks haven't been good defensively for Maryland, allowing 29 points, 29 to third points per game. Allowed 360 passing yards to Purdue, 315 to Indiana, and 215 rushing yards to Northwestern. So what it tells me is whatever you want to do right now against the Maryland defense, you can do. If you want to throw it, I can reference Purdue and Indiana. If you want to run it, I can reference Northwestern. Wisconsin probably wants to run it here. The conditions have brought the side down, I think, a little bit from 6-5. They brought the total down from 52.5 to 50. Can't say I disagree, Drew. It looks to me like this game should be an under 50 with the conditions that are going to be existing there.
All right, he's Robbie Veno. Check him out, wagertalk.com. Guys, we'll go around the horn one more time here. Get a best bet from Ralph and Robbie. I'll start us off here. Going to the middle game. And Notre Dame and Clemson, Saturday night, 7:30 in South Bend. I'm going with the home dog here, Notre Dame. Last game on the card. Not the last kick, but 4-2-1, 4-2-2. You can get a 4 out there if you shop around. +4 is available on Notre Dame. +3.5 widely available, though. Notre Dame 4-1 against the spread their last 5 as an underdog. Plus the fact, remember, Marcus Freeman coming in, started out 0-2, that loss to Marshall. Well, they've won 5 of their last 6 here, and they're playing a lot better football. So Clemson going on the road, I think a false favorite here, up and over 3. I'm going with Notre Dame at home, touchdown, Jesus, the whole bit. Let's get it on our side. Plus 3.5 with Notre Dame. That's my best bet for the show. Throw it over to Ralph Michaels at Cal Sports LV on Twitter. Check him out, wagertalk.com. $2 Tuesday winner. He's got a lot up, knows his sports betting, knows his college football. Ralph, what do you got for final thoughts and any best bet, man?
Well, shit, Drew, I was going to go the other way, and I can't do that. I can't go the best bet and go opposite.
Sure you can.
Nah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to cancel them out. So I'm going to go off the board. I did, I do TNA, Trends and Angles on Bet on It with Kelly, and I was digging through one, and I lost on Arizona State last week against Colorado. And yeah, Colorado State may be the lowest Power 5 power-rated team I have, but I'll tell you what, they are really starting to play some decent offense. They had 359 yards last week. I like the quarterback decisions, and they're getting a boatload versus Oregon this week, which is has Washington on deck. Conference home dogs of 19.5 or more off a home cover, week 5 and on. So you're established, you know what the lines are. You don't have any of those fake lines early in the season. Conference home dogs of 19.5 or more off a home cover, week 5 and higher, have gone 36-8, 81.8%. That says to play the Colorado Buffaloes, and I will use it as my best bet.
All right, Ralph Michaels, Colorado Buffaloes. We got Robbie Veno at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. Check him out, wagertalk.com. Robbie, where are you going for best bets? Final thoughts, man.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to Camp Randall, Drew, and take under 50.5 points with Maryland and Wisconsin. Of course, you do have to worry a little bit about turnovers in these types of conditions. Not only is there going to be heavy winds, which is what I'm taking into consideration the most, but it's going to rain the entire game. Ball will be slick. I'm sure Maryland will try and get theirs when they're with the wind. But again, Jim Leonard probably go into some type of umbrella style defense while his team is defending into the wind to make sure Maryland doesn't hit any big plays. So barring a whole bunch of turnovers that set up a whole bunch of points, I think under 50.5 and a pretty fast moving game here is the way to go. So give me Maryland, Wisconsin under 50.5, and let's hope the weather report remains what it is while we do this show.
Low scoring defensive affair in the Big Ten to end it for best bets. For Robbie Veno, Ralph Michaels, I am Drew Martin. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday. Come back and join us right here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Please smash that like button. Feel free to reply below. Cash those tickets.
Ready to take your favorite Wager Talk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The Wager Talk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like Wager Talk Today, Bet on It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for Wager Talk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.